Hello, welcome to the Enchanted Circle Podcast, and welcome to our 8th episode. We are a new podcast of 3 best friends that have known each other since high school that love fantasy books. So here we are doing what we love most, which is obviously reading, theorizing, and having a great time together. From meeting in high school to reading Harry Potter, Twilight, and the Mortal Instruments series to reading Fourth Wing and ACOTAR. We are all back to rereading Fourth Wing and Iron Flame to prepare for the upcoming release of Onyx Storm. So we created this podcast for the recap and to theorize together. I'm Carolina. Welcome to the 8th episode. We are covering chapters 8 through 14 of Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarrow. Sorry, in the original post on Instagram, we did say 8 through 15, but we decided to do chapter 15 the next episode. My son started to crawl this week. He hasn't mastered it yet, but he did crawl here and there, so that's exciting. I am so grateful for this podcast and to do what we love, and thankful for my girls here that we get to do this together. We hope you enjoy our podcast and have fun.
And I'm Bella. We are so excited to dive into these chapters. I can't believe that Thanksgiving and Native American Heritage Day is around the corner. It seems like time just flies around this time of year, but I try to remind myself to just unplug, unwind, and stay present as much as possible. It's more important now than ever to try and be mindful and not let the holiday pressures get you in a twizzy. And even though the holidays might be hard for many, I hope that it is warm and filled with loving memories with the people you love or animals you love.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all! Every day and every year, I'm so grateful for many things. My daughters, my husband, our life, our health. This year, I'm grateful for friendship, the kind of friends who transcend time, who grow with you, who know the real you, like Carolina and Isabella. Life has been an adventure thus far, but doing this podcast with you two has been so fulfilling. I am so grateful for authors who create amazing worlds and capture us in captivating worlds, for Rebecca Yarrow for creating the Imperium series, and many more like her. Thank you for saving my mental health time and time again. So let's get into it.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
That was beautiful stuff.
That was so beautiful.
Thanks, guys.
You're the best. Love you guys.
I love you guys.
We just have to mention content warnings. There will be spoilers for the entire book of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarrow, including all of Xaden's POV chapters. If you have not read any of these books and his new POVs, please come back once you do. We wouldn't want to spoil anything for you. We may mention interviews or posts from Rebecca Yarrow, so spoiler with that. Fair warning, we will be quoting quite a bit of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarrow for this recap. This podcast is rated R due to the topics we discuss about this adult book. Also, we tend to curse a lot, so please be aware of children listening. Let's get into it. Chapter 8, quote, "It is one thing to cross the parapet your first year, but watching countless cadets lose their life to it feels a little like dying too. Don't watch if you can't help it." End quote. Page 84, the Book of Brennan. It's conscription day, and Violet is not the one crossing the parapet this time. She tries not to take note of all the faces she sees, so it doesn't haunt her in her nightmares. Seems like Vi, and even Nadine are there to take names of all the new potential cadets entering the Riders Quadrant. Violet thinks how much she still hates Dane, which, same sis, Dane apparently made only one attempt to talk to her, and she shut him down. Yay!
I want to note that Vi says he looked heartbroken. He may be dumb and a Dane in the ass, but I can't help but feel bad for him here. He is such a rule follower. He has not managed to get out of his own ass and notice what the fuck is going on, which makes him an idiot.
Dane says here, quote, 91 dragons have agreed to bond this year, end quote, which is even fewer than last year. Remember when Violet first started, it was 100? Violet notes Dane is where Xaden was last year, and he got his position as wing leader. Ew. Violet even notes how Dane got rewarded for getting Liam and Soleil killed. Fuck him. But they clearly don't respect him because he's telling Rhee and Vi what to do, and they both cut him off. And Rhee and Vi just take names down today for the role. In better news, Violet notes Xaden is arriving today. Yay! So Violet is thinking, quote, maybe then I can address the 3 books on the craft of weaving fabric into traditional Tyrish knots he left for me, strips of fabric included, on the desk of my new room. end quote. Okay. 1, this is adorable. And number 2, I think Xaden is trying to tell her something here, or warming her up to the reveal of how her mother slashed him 107 times on his back because it is a Tyrish tradition. Violet also notes that in his letter to Violet, he wrote, quote, I meant what I said on the parapet. Even when I'm not with you, there's only you, end quote. And Violet notes that he's fighting for her. Oh, Xaden. We love you. Then Dane brings us back to reality and he calls Nadine's name. And Nadine also doesn't respect him because she's like, I have no job, Dane. Of course, Dane blames Nadine, quote, not having a job, end quote, on Rhee because she's squad leader. Dane, this is your fucking wing, dude. If this was Xaden, Nadine would never respond like that. So Rhee gets annoyed and even fights back with Dane. And she says, quote, I'll remind you that Ryerson did a hell of a job without needing everyone to supplicate themselves to him, end quote. Ouch. Hit him where it hurts, Rhee. Dean even says because everyone was so scared of him, well, everyone except Violet, of course. Violet even blushes with that remark. She still loves our boy here. Then Rhee changes the subject and asks about Varish, who is their new vice commandant. Dane responds, quote, nothing besides the fact that he's a complete hard-ass who thinks the quadrant has gone soft in the years since he graduated. He's friends with my father, end quote. Not a good sign, guys. Not a good sign at all. Here comes the new people, and Violet even notes how young they look to Taryn. And he responds, quote, so did you, end quote, in a low growl. Violet notes that he's been, quote, pissy for the past 2 days, end quote, which we can assume it's because he's far from his boo-boo Sigale. The cadets are starting to cross the parapet and Violet can't even bear to watch them cross. Venon is definitely getting into Basgiath with zero issues because Violet notes aggressive candidates. She even thinks, quote, the bull of a guy with a deeply cleft chin who charges across, tossing the scrawny red-haired candidate struggling at the midway point without hesitation, end quote. This reminds me of Jackass Barlow. Just pure hatred from the fucking jump. This guy, I believe, could be Venom. It's funny because even Rhee calls that guy, quote, Jack Barlow Jr., end quote, which is not a fucking accident here. He probably is Venom.
He is definitely Venom. The Venom have been plotting way longer than anybody knows, and they have infiltrated them fully. Violet even shivers at the memory of when Jack forced energy into her. Def some Venom power going on the low in Basgiath.
This is the same guy, I think, that attacks Violet in the later chapters. If you know, you know. So,
yeah, it is. It is.
This loser. Violet then turns and notes, quote, I stare in shock at the candidate standing far above me. He's taller than Dane, but shorter than Xaden, with a muscular build and strong chin. And though his sandy brown hair is shorter than the last time I saw him, I'd recognize those features, those eyes, anywhere. Cam, end quote. Insert Auric here. So, guys, you know I'm watching this guy like a hawk, okay, throughout this whole reread. So, who, for a reminder, is the youngest of the King Tari's sons and second in line to the throne? What is he doing in Basgiath? I'm gonna have so much fun on this reread paying attention to him. Violet obviously finds him attractive here. And let me stop. Trust me, I'm a Xaden girly all the way till the end. Aric's, quote, green eyes, end quote, flare with surprise and says his name, quote, Aric Grayscale, end quote. Which, by the way, Aric in Gaelic means ever powerful, according to Google. Bella, I know you like that, okay? Violet is like, wait, that's not his last name. And she even tells him that if he made that last name up, it's terrible. But Aric doesn't react to what she said. He just repeats his name again with his jaw flexing. Dane also recognizes him and even asks him, are you sure? There is no turning back, and all Aric does is nod, and Violet gives his name to Rhee to write down. Dane asks Aric if his father is aware, and Aric says it's none of his business and that he's 20 years old. Okay, cool. Aric tells Dane to ignore him, but Violet notes Aric only says that to Dane and not to Violet. Violet then tells Aric, quote, We're second squad, flame section, fourth wing, end quote. Dane tries to interject, but Violet is like, bruh, don't even start with me. Ree notices this interaction and asks Violet, who is that? And Violet says, quote, between us, King Tari's third son, end quote. Ree is like, oh my god. Violet even notes that Aric's older brother died during threshing 3 years prior. More on that later. Then the next candidate comes up and is like, oh my god, guys, quote, Sloane Mayari, end quote. Insert crying emoji here. Violet then turns her head so effing fast, I feel the whiplash from here. Violet notes how similar they are to each other. Ugh, Liam's baby sister, guys, whose hair is unbound. Violet made her promise to Liam to watch over her. So Violet gives her a hair tie and tells her to braid her hair. Dane tries to interject, and Violet's rage starts to boil. She says to Dane, quote, don't you dare say another word or I'll blast you off this turret, Atos, end quote. Power crackles in this moment and even erupts in the sky. Dane shuts the fuck up, as he should, and I love how no one respects him. Rightfully fucking so. Fuck you, Dane. Violet gives Sloane... Fuck him.
The energy right now, I can't.
Guys, Liam was everything. So Violet gives Sloane the same exact advice Mira gave her last year. It's so cute to see. Then Sloane recognizes who Violet is and then even says, quote, you're Violet Sorrengail, end quote. Then her expression changes to anger and says, quote, I know what really happened. You got my brother killed. He died for you, end quote. Ouch, Sloane, come on.
Does she know?
I was just thinking
told
that.
her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who told her what quote unquote really happened? Like, who was giving her information? Who was setting her up to hate Violet?
Violet responds to Sloane saying yes. And Sloane continues on by saying, quote, go straight to hell. And I really mean that. I hope no one commends your soul to Malik. I hope he rejects it. Liam is worth a dozen of your kind. And I hope you spend eternity paying for what you cost me, what you cost all of us, end quote. I feel so bad for Violet here. I really do. Taryn even feels bad and tells Violet it wasn't your fault. But Violet feels guilty again. Oh, guys, I just feel so bad. She's going through the guilt already, and just to relive this, it's just horrible. Violet gives her sass back and says, you can be mad all you want, but follow my advice so you can live, bish. Do it for Liam. Sloane is the only one she watches, and she even whispers to Liam, quote, she made it, end quote. Then she moves on to the next name. 71 candidates fall off the parapet, which is 4 more than last year. Violet is standing there with Nadine and Riddick behind 8 first years, who they know are anxious. Violet notes that Arik is, quote, standing with impossibly perfect posture, but keeps his head down next to a red-haired girl whose complexion is full-on green in the row ahead, end quote. Pay very close attention to him on this time around, guys. Violet notes that Sloane was just called to first wing. I don't know what happens, but Dane basically does something and makes Sloane come to second squad, flame section, fourth wing. His guilty fucking conscience must have done it. Sloane is being a bitch, though, even says out loud that she would go to any squad but this one. But Ree snaps back with a quote, does it look like I give a shit what you want, end quote. Go Ree, go bestie, go. We find out quickly that Sawyer is Ree's executive officer, just like how Garrick was to Zayden. Sawyer is like, Mari? And Violet clarifies it's Liam's sister, and she hates Violet. Sloane continues to be a spoiled brat and says that she can't be in the same squad as Violet. Imogen even steps in and says, quote, stop disrespecting our squad leader and get in formation, Sloane. You're acting like a spoiled aristocrat, end quote. Sloane is like, what the fuck, Imogen? And Ree goes to Violet. Seems like she wants to kill you. You sure you want her in our squad? And Violet still feels guilty here and says she can't tell Ree the whole truth, so she says how she promised Liam to keep her safe. Ree even notes how Violet is collecting strays, meaning Sloane and Arik.
This is the most candidates the quadrant will have after they all start dying. But Vi thinks to herself, quote, but not me. I've danced with Malik more than my fair share over the last year and told him to fuck right off every single time. Maybe Sloane is right and he doesn't want me. End quote. I don't know, but now I'm starting to think, does this have something to do with her signet? I know you guys are all about like she's a god, resurrection, but like it's very interesting that she notes how many times she's like literally almost died. And now at this point, she's like, I don't fucking care. I ain't dying. I will not die today. And she don't.
Soon after, they're listening to Panchek's lovely welcome speech and going through the same stuff they did last year, even noting that Dane is nothing like Xaden was as a leader, which I can only imagine. Then the dragons come to the courtyard just like they did last year. Violet notes, quote, 6 dragons, 5 belonging to the wing leaders, and 1-eyed orange daggertail I don't recognize lands on the courtyard walls behind the dais, end quote. Whose orange daggertail is this? Fucking Varish. Violet even thinks that none of these dragons are as scary as Terran or Sigale. Why didn't Terran come? Come on, I want to see him here.
Girl, it's only because it's leadership's dragons and Vi isn't in leadership.
But Terran is, though. The fuck?
I mean, yes and no.
Naturally, the first years shriek and piss themselves. Violet is over here picking lint off her uniform. Oh, how things have changed since last year. The redhead that was in front of Arik vomits all over his boots. Oh my god, ew. Then Sloane looks scared also. And Violet notes that she looks like she's going to run. She tells Sloane they will burn her alive if she runs. Then Sloane got angry again because Violet is talking to her. But Violet notes angry is better than her being scared or dead. Violet thinks to herself how Terran is twice as big as these dragons. She even tells him, oh, you didn't feel like intimidating people today, basically? Terran responds, quote, I do not participate in parlor tricks, end quote. I love him, guys. I love him so much. Violet asks him if he knows anything about this one-eyed orange dragon. Terran, to our surprise, seems surprised even and asks to confirm that, quote, Solus is there, end quote. Violet clarifies, yes, he's there. And Terran warns her, quote, do not take your eyes off him. Dane is giving his weak-ass, wanna-be-like Xaden-ass speech when Kath is noted to look over him and blows a hot breath of steam to the crowd, and Violet notes, quote, Dane really needs to get Kath's teeth checked because there has to be a bone stuck in there, decaying or something, end quote. What could this mean? This stood out to me because something is italicized here. Could Dane's involvement with his father, aka Venom, be causing Kath to decay or turn into something else? We don't even know what could be causing this bad breath per se, but it's definitely something. I still think that Dane is being controlled somehow. I think somehow he loses recollection of his memory and like is being controlled by his dad or whoever has a signet that can control people.
You're right. You're right because, okay.
We don't even know. Do we know what Varish's signet is?
No, but like, yes, we do know. We find out later. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Because I don't remember.
Oh my God. Carolina, you're right. Because remember when Violet comes back from Arisha and he goes to hug Violet and she's like, don't touch me. And his face is confused, like as if he doesn't remember why she would be mad.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. He's definitely being used as something. We shall see. Then someone in first wing breaks to a run. Then Violet is like, shit. Violet looks away and Terran responds to her to keep her eyes on Solus, the orange dragon. Solus is about to burn those cadets. Violet yells for everyone to get down before they all get roasted. She even tackles Sloane to the ground. The flames were so close that, quote, heat singes every patch of exposed skin on my body, end quote. This would be Varish's fucking dragon. Oh my god. And well, now Terran is pissed because he roars and Violet notes how Solus burned half of third squad and chaos erupts. Terran yells out for Violet and she tells him that she's alive, but her back is torched. Her armor stayed in place, thank gods. Everyone is okay. In shock, but okay. Panchek yells out like the asshole he is and tells everyone to get back into formation as if nothing happened. What the fuck? Violet and Imogen look at each other and Imogen tells Violet that Sierra is dead. Violet is like, wait, what? This can't be on purpose. As she thinks this and calls for Imogen, Imogen tells her to not say it. Guys, is Imogen an intrinsic? Okay. It's as if she knew what Violet was also thinking. Violet is thinking this in her head, and then Imogen tells her not to say it. Solus and Varish clearly didn't care what they just did, and the fact they burned bonded riders as well as those that did not break formation. What the fuck? A cadet breaks for a run. Solus is about to torch him too, but our Terran comes through and he's pissed. So pissed that he takes out stones in his wake, left and right. The wing leader's dragon all rear back, even Kath, but Solus holds his ground with Terran. Oh boy. Terran yells out, quote, "You do not have the right to burn what is mine," end quote. Okay, guys, I just have to say this is kind of hot. Sigale, I see why, boo-boo. Okay, back to our story. Terran demonstrates an earth-shattering roar at Solus, but Solus continues to stand firm, narrowing his eyes. Damn, he's a feisty one. Terran snaps his teeth at Solus, and Solus retreats. Well. Solus is on the naughty list. Terran turns to Varish and releases a steamed breath at him. Violet tells Terran, quote, "I think he's got the message," end quote. And Terran responds, quote, "If Solus comes near you again, he knows I will devour his human whole and let him rot within me while his heart still beats, and I'll take the eye I so graciously left him," end quote. Still hot. Okay, moving on. Violet responds, quote, "That's graphic," end quote. Damn right it is. I'd respond the same way, honestly. And Terran tells her, quote, "The warning should be effective for now," end quote. The "for now" part bothers me. I mean, obviously Terran knows him well, but damn, is Solus that psycho? Panchek returns to business as usual, unfazed. Okay, then Varish glares at Violet, and oh god, here we go. Enemy number one right here.
Guys, I don't remember why Terran and Solus have beef, but those two have the bad kind of history. There are grudges here, but why?
I think Terran does say something soon. Anyway, Terran is like really hot in this scene. You know?
I've read some dragon smut, and I don't ask me. Don't ask me. I've been into some worlds, but you know what? It was hot. Stop. It is kind of hot, you know, like
I mean, his energy is just giving. Like,
so think about dragon smut. I can share a book with you that I read. Shout out to like one of my really favorite books, and it's so raunchy, and it's, oh my god, I'm like obsessed with this book, and I can't wait for the next book to come out. But it's called Flames of Chaos, and oh my god, it is monster sex. It is dragon.
Oh wow.
It is phoenix. It is witches. I think the last one is Reign of Chaos that's supposed to be coming out soon. Like, it is so good, and he is possessive. He is possessive. He is the
red
villain.
Flags, but we love it.
He is the villain. He is bad. It's a slow burn.
Like Steph said one episode, never said I wasn't toxic. Chapter 9. The next day, Violet wakes up in a cold sweat and her body flooded with adrenaline from a nightmare she had and has been having ever since Xaden left. She knows that she has vivid nightmares while she sleeps. Imogen finds Violet outside, about to go on a run. Imogen decides to join her. Violet is like, "Xaden better not make you do this." Imogen is like, "Girl, I can't sleep either." We forget that it's not only Violet who is traumatized from events at Resin. Okay, guys, hold on. This interaction is strange. Hear me out. Imogen asks Violet, why are they running? Violet says she sucks at it and she's good in short bursts, but not for long distances. Quote, Imogen's gaze snaps to mine. Her eyes widen. Bodhi's farther back and starts our way. His walk so similar to Xaden's stride that I almost do a double take. End quote. Guys, again, countless times, I'm having a madwoman theory right now. What if Bodhi is younger Xaden trapped in this past timeline or future timeline, and Xaden knows it? But he acts like that's his cousin to keep it not so sus. Thoughts? That's actually... Yeah, that actually is what made me think of this, because from that bonus excerpt, it made me think the theory of could that be future or alternate time versus Violet? And then I was like, wait, Yarrow always mentions how Bodhi looks so much like Xaden. That made me think, like, what if Bodhi is also an alternate timeline of Xaden? This could be a Marvel Universe kind of situation right now. The fact that Imogen's eyes widen, like, I don't know, it's like a surprise. It's like, oh my God, like, is it Xaden or is it not? And I just thought that was interesting to note here. Just remember, I said this today, y'all. Okay. Bodhi really keeps to himself. He's not mentioned nearly enough as Garrick was. Just saying. Okay, I've gone mad. But if I'm right, remember who said it. Ree catches up with Violet and Ree is like, what are you doing? Violet is like, I can ask you the same. But we find out they had a leadership meeting. Ree's distrust in Violet begins here. We find out that Bodhi Duran, which, by the way, Bodhi means awakening and enlightenment, according to Google. Just saying. Moved from tail section to flame section because they have to reconstruct due to Solus burning all of Third Squad. Violet is avoiding Bodhi also because she doesn't want to show him that she's struggling. Then he would tell Xaden. Ree distrusting her. Odie is like running with Imogen. Imogen steps in and says, yep, they're runners now. Ree doesn't buy it, and Violet remembers what Xaden told her. Quote, if you can't lie, you keep your distance. End quote. Bodhi's gaze narrows. Also not trusting this, but Imogen says she's got this, and Bodhi tells them to let them go. And they do. Imogen and Violet basically trauma bond together in this moment. Now they're in battle brief, and they're standing because all of the first years take the seats for now. Violet thinks of Brennan and how Battle Brief looks similar to when she was with him back in Arisha, but Brennan thinks they only have 6 months left until Venom challenge the wards. But I believe Venom are already within the wards. They are just sneaky right now and laying low. Ree even asks Violet how her run was, and Violet says goodish but effective. Violet in this moment keeps her shields up and even thinks how Taryn loves to remind her when they slip. Professor DeVera walks in and her black hair is noted to be shorter, and Violet notes that she has a new wound on her bicep. Ree says, quote, I heard she spent the last week with the Southern Wing, end quote. DeVera is a badass beige. She is definitely one of the cool teachers. Then Markham walks in, and Violet wants to legit stab him. She notes how he's a fucking traitor, and he has to know the truth about the Venom because he wrote Navarre history. And she was his star pupil, hand-picked by him to succeed in the Scribe Quadrant. Mama Sorengale protected her baby from this man. It's funny how he handpicked Violet. He probably thought Violet's family was very loyal. DeVere continues to say that news is received at Basgiath first. Then it goes to the king. Violet looks at Arik and notes that he didn't even flinch and that he keeps his head down. She even thinks, quote, he's got a shot at blending in, at least until his father sounds the alarm that he's missing from his gold-plated bed in Chaldeer, end quote. Okay, guys, here we go. Another Mad Woman theory. Violet, baby girl, how do you know how his bed is gold-plated? Huh? Excuse me? Violet, were you with him? Were you with one of his brothers in the past? Give us the tea, sis, because the tea is teaing. How does she know what his bed be looking like?
Well, I think she means it like he's been fed like with the silver spoon, you know that saying? So like his gold-plated bed, like he's like, I do think maybe there's some history because the fact like on the parapet, he tells Dane, stay away from me, but not Violet.
That's
and
right.
There's more like in their interactions where he's like very protective of Violet.
That's right. Anyway, Markham starts by saying that there was 2 Griffin attacks on the border in the last week, near the village of Safine, high in the Esben Mountains. Could this be where Xaden went in the excerpt? Okay, moving on. Which Violet notes it's an hour flight from Montserrat. So apparently the Griffins couldn't tell the patrol the motive for the attack because they were burned immediately. Violet thinks to herself, that's hard for prisoners to talk when they have been fighting like they're dead against Venom all the time. Riddick says that's what they deserve for attacking civilians. But Violet, being our smart girl, thinks, quote, but were they? Markham didn't even mention civilian casualties, only destruction. Selective truths of Markham as well? Then an outpost in Athbine was attacked 3 days prior. Violet gasps, and the professors are like, "Are you okay, sis?" Oh my god, could they be making this up in order to explain the destruction of Athbine? Violet wonders if Markham knows what she knows, the truth, and if Daddy Atos told him. But Violet plays the game and notes that she's surprised because outposts are not usually outright attacked. And Markham is like, "You're right, that's what they were considering also." Yeah, okay. Professor DeVere cuts in, saying first years should answer, and I can't help but wonder if she did this to protect Violet. As Professor DeVere explains, Taryn yells at Violet to keep her shields up. Ree asks, quote, "Do you think it's possible that the enemy knew the outpost has been emptied for war games and was trying to take advantage of the situation?" End quote. Yes, Ree, being our smarty pants, and basically Ree calls them out for the timeline not matching up. Violet catches Markham lying, saying that the Promiel trading post nearby Resson was leveled by Promish unrest. Violet gets so mad that power heats under her skin. DeVere then asks what they would do if they were leaders at Athbine. Caroline says she would get more officers and threaten the civilians nearby. Dane's Codex loving ass said that that's not the rules. DeVere says Dane is right, we defend our borders, but do not harm civilians. The fact that they have to remind them that is crazy, but anyway. Violet can't help but think that they're hiding the truth and not doing anything about it, and this whole report could be a fucking lie. But then someone asks if anyone was killed. DeVere confirms 4 were wounded, including her. So that theory of Violet's went out the window. After battle brief, Violet searched for Bodhi, and when she does, he's like, "Soaringale?" She's like, "Bruh, I want to help." Now I can't unsee the potential time travel theory about Bodhi's. Anyway, she tells him that she wants to help, and he's like, "I have specific orders for you to stay far away from helping." Violet tries to convince him, but it doesn't work. Imogen comes along and Bodhi walks away. Violet is like, "We have to act like nothing happened," and Imogen confirms, "Yep." Ree and Quinn catch up with Imogen and Violet, and Quinn and Imogen go have lunch. And Ree tells Violet that she thinks the school is hiding something. Yes, Ree, you brilliant bestie. This is when we get the first hint of something is up with Nolan. Ree says that she thinks something is happening in the healer quadrant and that Nolan looked like shit and he could barely stand up. Ree continues to say, quote, "When I went to ask him if he was all right, the new vice commandant said he had more important things to do than talk to cadets and basically escorted him to the little door in the back of the infirmary, which is now guarded." End quote. Ree, Violet, just tell her, sis. Violet gaslights her, and Violet leaves them to go eat lunch alone. Ree and Sloane glare at Violet. Violet asks Ree, "Are you okay?" Ree, asks Violet if she's mad at her. Violet, just tell Ree she's loyal as fuck. Ree tells Violet how she notices that she's being distant, and she assumes Violet is upset with her because she picked Sawyer as her executive officer. And Violet is like, "Oh my god, no, she wouldn't be a good pick for executive officer anyway because of Taryn and Sigale and how often she has to leave." Then they announce Sloane and Arik to fight, but Sloane points to Violet and says that she wants to fight Violet instead. Professor Materio's like, "Nah, sis, I know who trained her, and that's not happening." He even admits he made a mistake of having Imogen paired up with Violet last year. Someone asks, quote, "Did someone say Soaringale?" End quote. And Nadine mocks, saying she's Violet Soaringale. And a first year in second wing snaps Nadine's neck. That's the end of chapter 9. Oh my god.
It's so
Even the second
fast.
time I forgot this happened, clearly, because like we thought Nadine wasn't dead, but I was just like,
first of all, I was over here like, "Nadine, you bitch, you took down the ward, you're a traitor."
We still don't know what she did technically, so anyway.
Chapter 10, quote, "It is not unheard of that a candidate enters the writer's quadrant having been paid to assassinate a cadet. I'm sorry Mira was targeted, but I am proud to say she dispatched the threat quickly. You have enemies, General." End quote. Official notice from Commandant Panchak to General Soaringale. Nadine, again, girl, I'm so sorry. I was talking all that shit about you being the one fucking with the wards.
We were
I take it back.
So much shit. So much shit.
I take it back. I apologize. You did not deserve to die that way, girl. You were just being silly. You were just being funny. Violet demands, quote, no one interferes, end quote, as she grabs her daggers and tells this asshole she is Violet Soaringale. Violet engages quickly with this man, but he is too fast, and the dagger she just threw lodge in his arms instead of his chest.
When I reread this, Violet is so much more badass here, and also Sloane, take notes, sis.
Seriously. She blocks out Andarna, who woke up due to Violet fighting, and Vi quickly tells Andy to sleep. Vi drops down to her knees and fucking clips the tendons on his knees. Ouch! Though the giant, as Vi calls him, doesn't seem to feel the pain of what she just did. He happens to grab onto one of Violet's daggers, and it costs her because it nearly gets her, and he gets to slip her legs out from under her. P.S. My heart is beating fast as fuck because for a second I really think this man is about to kill her. He overpowers her with his huge body, and Vi cannot manage to dislodge him. His hands wrapped around Violet's throat. Second time this happens to her, like, damn. He says, quote, fucking die already. Secrets die with the people who keep them, end quote. Vi looking into his light brown eyes that are rimmed with red. Someone has channeled. Someone is Venom. Someone is this burly, huge-ass man. And who sent him? Colonel Atos, of course. So quickly, I think Colonel Atos is definitely Venom because one, 100%. he knew the village of Resin was going to get attacked, and that's why he sent them. Like the timing of that, odd. Two, he gets Varish to come, who is literally psychotic and probably also Venom. Three, he has people trying to assassinate Violet who are Venom. And he's the one that commands Varish to work on Jack.
He's so Venom, it's not even funny, which is probably how Kath, who is Dane's dragon, has, quote, bad breath. I saw a theory, as I mentioned earlier, that dragons that have bad breath tend to be linked to Venom, or they notice this correlation, and Kath definitely fits that criteria.
Wait, sis, so you're saying Dane is Venom?
No, not yet, but I'm saying Dane is being controlled somehow by Venom. I think that's starting to affect Kath. Kath is not outright Wyvern or Venom per se, but he's already having like these quote like symptoms, like the bad breath or whatever.
True.
So I think being linked to it somehow, obviously we don't know the specifics, but somehow it gives us a clue like, oh, something's up with this person or something's up with this dragon.
Okay. All right. At last, Violet manages to grab another dagger and she stabs him over and over until the man finally goes limp and dies. Violet gets out from under him and finally starts breathing, but all she can feel in this moment is pain.
I love how Violet took Xaden's advice and did exactly what he said she should do, and our girl is a violent little thing.
Dane, visibly shaken, tries to ask Violet if she is okay, but she remembers who exactly set her up to be killed. Again, Vi replies, quote, don't touch me, end quote. In a move similar to Xaden, Violet cleans off her daggers with a dead first year's clothes. Signs these two are too much alike. Fated mates. Violet also lets Taryn and Andy know she is okay, and she feels their fear turn into relief. Professor Emeterio asks if he can touch Violet to see if she is okay, and she allows it, much to his mirth, since she knows that he must have asked because of her reaction to Dane trying to touch her. He tells her that she is concussed and to skip the rest of the session, but Vi being Vi refuses. Imogen, also to everyone's mirth, says she's got Violet, but Emeterio is like, girl, I remember what you did to her last assessment day, which, wow, how the turntables. The Office, if you've watched The Office, that's where.
Oh yeah, I love The Office so
much. You guys know that episode. It's like, How
What
the
I love,
turntables.
I love that show so much. I could watch it over and over and over.
Violet convinces Emeterio that she is staying, and she leans heavily onto Imogen. She tells her that Dane's dad sent him to kill her and that they are being targeted. Then Emeterio lets us in on this little detail from the past. Quote, he was probably sent as a message to your mother. Same thing happened to your older sister during her years. End quote. Obviously, the enemy is always the one closest. Her most trusted advisor, Colonel Atos. I wonder how many times he, alongside others, have plotted against her and her children. Obviously, it's why General Sorrengail demanded Violet to go into the Riders' Quadrant. She did what she had to do to prepare her last daughter on the biggest threat to their lives. They can never make me hate you, Lilith.
I think Lilith, even before the events of Resin, knew who and what Daddy Atos is, and she's playing a game with them.
You deaf right. Violet watches as Arik and Salome begin to fight, and the latter is a terrible fighter. All bark, no bite, like a chihuahua. But it makes her realize that keeping her promise to Liam to keep her alive will be harder than she thought.
Side note, first time reading this, I think these two would hit it off. And on this reread, they had a similar experience to how Violet and Xaden had, where Xaden handed Violet her ass on the mat for the first time. Just thought it was cute to mention.
Like you said earlier, Violet has come, like she has 180 here. She's completely different in 1 year. You know, a year ago, she was Salome, and she just took out a huge bull-like man. Insane. Go Violet. I mean, Xaden did train her in and out of the bedroom.
And so did but guess who also trained her though? Redid Girl Power.
After assessments, Violet still goes to physics with dried, caked on blood all over her. What a fucking sight. And legit, a heartbeat. Before she opens her door, she feels it. Quote, the familiar midnight tinted shadow wrapping around my mind. Xaden is here in her room waiting for her. We find out that the reason he is a day late is because of his commander. Quote, he takes my face in his in a way that feels completely different from the way Emeterio had earlier. And the rage shining in his eyes is at odds with the gentleness of his touch as he takes stock of my injuries. End quote. Vi says, the blood is his. Xaden says, I'm sorry I couldn't kill him first. She replies, the first year or Atos? He says, both. She says, you can't go around killing cadets. You're an officer now. Xaden replies, watch me. I love a possessive
So
man.
yummy.
The love, strong and palpable between these two. Though Violet has her walls up, she still needs Xaden. After Vi has washed off and eaten, she asks Xaden, quote, what is it like at Samara? End quote. And as a girl, I am annoyed Xaden is like, quote, look at you asking questions, end quote. Cause like, boy, if you don't shut your mouth. Then he makes me swoon by saying, quote, wanting you to ask what you want to know isn't a game. You and me, not a game, end quote. I love you, Xaden. Fine. You could just
that is the most bipolar response.
You could break my heart as long as you're the one gluing the pieces back together.
One of my friends, I'm sorry, but one of my friends, when we first met Xaden like a year ago, she was like, he could ruin my life and I'll say thank you.
Okay, yes.
Absolutely.
He is so serious about our girl Vi. Violet asks him, is he being treated differently because of his relic? But he says that his last name is more of a deterrent than his relic. Quote, you know what it's like. People judge you by your last name all the time. End quote. And you know what? Like, correlation, I really did not realize how many people really do judge Violet by her last name just like Xaden is judged by his last name. They are so alike. I'm still in my theory that there is fated mates here and they're fated mates. Vi replies that she thinks he has it worse, though he says only within the borders. End quote. How did I miss this? That outside the borders of Navarre, others want him for more than just his signet, but for his last name and what it brings. Violet asks him if he warded her new room against visitors, and of course he did, even though Violet thinks it's to make sure she can't bring anyone in. Xaden lets her know he just warded it against anyone who isn't in physical contact with her as they walk into her room, meaning she can bring anyone in should she wish. Violet notices how Xaden's eyes are tracking the hairbrush that is currently brushing her hair, and she reminds us all how much Xaden loves when her hair is down. Homeboy even shifts his weight as he curls his fingers. It is hot in here, so much sexual tension, but Xaden asks,
I'm gonna just put my hair down and dye the tip silver right now. I love him, but I'm mad at you. I'm bipolar right now.
Xaden asks her for 3 words, and he will take her to Pound Town. Hey! She thinks he wants her to say she wants him, but boy is she wrong, because those are not the words he wants from her. Xaden changes the subject when Violet says they shouldn't do anything about what they both clearly want to do. As he does, she tells him about how her week was, letting him know that she couldn't watch everyone fall off the parapet and that Salone hates her. Xaden replies, quote, "It's impossible to hate you. Trust me, I tried." End quote. Someone knocks on the door, though, and it startles Violet. Xaden, though, he was expecting it. Bodhi is there. He tells her he has to go get a lot of stuff done before he leaves, and Violet tries to get up, and she asks him to let her help. Xaden says she needs to stay, rest, and heal. He hands her a folded piece of parchment, telling her, quote, "But I told you I'd find a way to let you in. And right now, this is all I have." End quote. Violet's heart is stammering in her throat as she grapples with the fact that he is leaving her already. Gods, I wish they'd just make up. But she asks him how she will find him at Samara in 7 days, and if he warded his own room for sound and to let him, her, and anyone he tugs in. Our girl is jelly. I know the feeling because I'm jealous that she gets to be with him and I don't.
Same.
Xaden replies with a hint of a smirk, quote, "No, Violet, just you and me." End quote.
This made me melt.
Violet unfolds the paper. Xaden wrote her a letter. Swooning.
I need Xaden's letter in my life. I want to read the whole thing. Why didn't she show us the whole thing? Give us the letter. Give it to me.
Guys, that was the end of chapter 10. So moving on quickly onto chapter 11. Imogen remarks how Vi has been giddy for the last 3 days. And of course our girl is in a good mood since she received and read that letter from Xaden. The letter has 0 rebellion information, but what it does have is little details about Xaden, like Garrick being his best friend since his father was his father's aide, quote, which in a way makes him my Dane, except trustworthy, end quote. And the fact that Xaden, quote, used to sit on the roof of Ryerson House during the rebellion in hopes his father would come home and tell him it was over, end quote. Violet, though, tells Imogen it's because she hasn't had a nightmare and because no one is trying to kill her. But, of course, Imogen is like, why didn't you take him back already?
Imogen is saying what we're all thinking.
Violet replies, it's because he doesn't trust her. Now, Here's where Imogen really starts growing on me because she's like, we ain't friends. Go talk to your real friends that you've been avoiding. Though she has been a real friend to Violet. Not only has she joined in on her runs and supported her during her attack on her life, Imogen notices a scribe in the writer's quadrant and Vi realizes that it is Jasenia. As Imogen and Vi meet up with Jasenia, the not so called friend Imogen tries to be protective of Vi, looking at Jasenia, especially in her bag. But Jasenia is like, I'm not going to try to kill her. I wouldn't even know how. Imogen replies, quote, Violet knew how to kill just fine on a scribe's education, end quote. No, but for real, we all started in Fourth Wing believing Violet was not a killer, and she wasn't. But damn, did the girl know her poisons and to what extent to use them before killing anyone. Violet asks Jasenia what she needs since scribes never enter the writer's quadrant unless they're assisting Captain Fitzgibbons. And Jasenia hands her a tome of the gift of the first six. Then she admits she came to Violet for her help on translating a couple of sentences from Old Lucerish to Navarian. Violet recalls how Dane and her used to use the language to pass secret messages. Little dorks. But also sad because they were best friends over years and Dane has ruined it. They were really besties, which is like in 1 year, right? Like what happened between when Dane left to the writer's quadrant and that 1 year to change his whole personality? So I think you're right, Carolina. I think there's something with his memory being altered because he's not acting like the best friend Violet had for 15 years.
That's right.
Vi helps Jasenia with the rest of her sentences she needs help with as they hear a scream. A second year from Third Wing is being dragged by two older writers and followed by Professor Markham. Hate, 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 hate. I hate you, Professor Markham. Jasenia laments how she thinks it may be her fault since she recorded that the writer had requested a book. Vi tells her she did nothing wrong and asks her what book it was, but as she notices Jasenia's fear, she quickly drops the topic and lets her go. Rhiannon catches up with the squad as they reach the steps to the gauntlet to get to the flight field. She hands everyone their mail and Vi gets excited, thinking Xaden sent her another letter, but the excitement quickly dissipates as she realizes it's a letter from her sister, which, damn girl, and though she's truly happy to get a letter from her sister, Vi has it real bad for Xaden. Ree tries to talk to Violet to get to the bottom of Violet's behavior, and for a short moment, V tells her a half-truth. Xaden and her are not together. Quote, Xaden wasn't honest with me. I had to end it. End quote. Ree, being a girl's girl, replies, quote, another woman? Because I will absolutely help you annihilate that shadow-wielding asshole if you guys were exclusive and he, end quote. Bad ass Ree, true friend.
The fandom would also join in on this too.
Wish Violet could lean on her. She needs her friends. Violet finally opens the letter and reads that Mira has been reassigned to Adabine. And as she continues to read, she notices that thick black lines eliminate entire paragraphs. Quote, I think it's been redacted. End quote. Ree replies, someone censored your letter? Someone read your letter? Vi thinks of all the people who could have opened her mail. Riddock then asks Vi if Taryn has said anything about another black dragon that was spotted in the Vale. Andy, raising everyone's attentions, even in her sleep. Avi, Vi plays dumb to protect, and Darna. Major Varish makes his way to Violet, noting, quote, quite the necklace you have there, end quote. What bolt went loose in his head to be this insane? Mad Woman Theory. Is he Jack's father? Cause, man, are they just psychotic. Not a Mad Woman Theory, kind of Mad Woman Theory, but I'm just saying, bitches be crazy. Violet, the baddie, replies, quote, thank you. It was expensive. Cost someone their life. End quote. Baddie, pose for me. That was so good. She's like, it was expensive. Cost somebody their life. Ooh, Varish notices that Andarna is not present and asks Vi where she is. Taryn gets pissed, like, don't talk about my foster child. But Varish ignores him and continues on to order Violet to make sure Andarna shows for next flight lessons. Violet reminds him, quote, dragons don't take orders from humans, end quote. Fortunately for her, she does. Varish says, quote, it's ironic, don't you think? From what Colonel Atos told me, your father was writing a book on feathertails, dragons which hadn't been seen in hundreds of years. And then you bonded to one, end quote. She asks Taryn if it is coincidental, and he tells her he knows nothing of her father's research. But Andy? She goes silent. Sis, what you hiding? Stop hiding things. Come out, tell us the truth. I have this theory. What if Daddy Sorrengail was in the Vale, chit-chatting to this egg, and then it hatched, and then Andarna, and then he's been like talking to her about our girl Vi. I don't know. Crazy thoughts, mad woman thoughts. Kaori lets them know that they will be learning how to complete a running landing, which of course is not good for our girl. Girls got fragile bones and joints. Vi remarks that she doesn't think Kaori knows the truth of what's going on. Quote, if he did, he'd be teaching us faster ways to get off the damn ground, not land on it, end quote. Bodhi and Vi make their way to the flight field a little before midnight. He tells her to tell Xaden that they're working on the next shipment and that it's raw. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure we'll find out soon. Little details I've forgotten about. Violet is the best way of getting information to Xaden without actually knowing anything until she can shield from Dane, the pain in my ass. Xaden was supposed to continue teaching her to shield, but the last time she saw him, she had just been attacked. Bodhi sticks his big foot in his mouth as he slips up and tells her, quote, I've never seen him care like this, and that includes Catriona, end quote.
Reading this again got me mad all over again. Who is this bitch? Bodhi is in the doghouse.
Bodhi, you fucked up. Fuck you, cat.
Fuck you, cat, you hater.
Bodhi, you finna get your ass beat by Xaden. Cat, I hate you.
We hate you, cat.
He tries to backpedal, asking if there's a chance she'll forget. But boy, a girl never forgets, especially when she finds out that there's been another girl she knew nothing about, and Xaden never told her. And she just found out by his cousin, instead of Xaden, that actual man she is in love with, and she's got trust issues, but he hasn't been honest with her, and now she can't stop thinking about it because I relate. I would obsess about this. I don't care if it's toxic. Bodhi mentions that he has been attacked twice in the bathing chamber.
He said he legit beat the person butt-ass naked and only had a little bruise. Wow, Bodhi, you're quite the skilled fighter.
Hottie. Bodhi's kind of hot too, so hot naked fight. Sword fight.
I'll fight with him.
It was a sword fight. Varish, of course, that bastard, shows up to fucking search Violet's bag. And one of the riders he comes with dumps her belongings on the ground. Rude bitch. He also tries to dismiss Bodhi, but thank God he knows the codex and does not leave. Avi, they find nothing. He tells her that, quote, since your feathered tail decided not to join you for formation again, I will be pondering your punishment for dereliction of duty while you are gone, end quote. Violet knows how Bodhi knew that that was going to happen, and basically, yeah, they used her as a test without her knowledge. What the fuck? This is not a good look for you guys. Taryn says, quote, good thing they didn't search me, end quote. Because these two are carrying contraband to Xaden. The two take off towards Sigil and Xaden. End of chapter 11.
Chapter 12. The description above the chapter I find interesting because Xaden mentions how he killed someone at threshing because that person was bullying Yarrick. 1, wow, Xaden is the ultimate bestie. And 2, I think this was Arick's brother since he was, quote, killed at threshing 3 years ago, end quote. Which I'm sure Xaden confirms later, but just interesting. And Xaden says Sigil chose him here because of how ruthless he was and how he reminded her of his grandfather. We need to know we need more background info on Granddaddy Zaddy. What happened to him?
They reach the Samara outpost high in the Esben Mountains. It's completely secluded. As Violet walks into the fortress, she notices an infantry cadet in a cage about 4 stories above her. Vi feels the wards because her signet has manifested, making her more sensitive to them now. Taryn is guarding her because he was warned by Sigale that there's a drift on the other side of the mountain, and Vi realizes that they are at the front. After making sure that she is safe within the walls of the fortress, Taryn leaves, telling her to let him know if she needs him, to which Vi thinks, hell no. She plans to mentally block him out this whole time as much as possible while they are there, especially if he's going to be doing the nasty with Sigale. As Vi navigates the fortress, she starts to feel a sense of fear because it reminds her of Montserrat, since all outposts have that same layout. She finally finds Xaden's room, but finds it empty and reaches out through the bond to find out where he is. But his shield seems to be up, and she feels that he is under her. Not under her, but underground.
She wants him to be under her, though.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. She's manifesting it. She makes her way down until she reaches the basement through the bond. She finally finds him in one of the chambers, fighting shirtless in the middle of a pit, surrounded by cheering riders. She notices people are gambling on who will win. A rider near her explains they are fighting for a lieutenant pass for the weekend. Basically, Xaden is fighting so he can see Violet again, and Sigale can see Taryn. The writer observes Vi closely after Vi hints that she knows Xaden very well by commenting on his fighting techniques. She then says, "You're her, Lieutenant Sorengale's sister." Vi admits to herself that she is turned on seeing Xaden fight, and as she is reminiscing on their times they had together, the writer next to her shouts, and Xaden's eyes meet Violet's, giving Jerry an opportunity to punch him in the jaw. Vi says to finish it through the bond, to which he replies, quote, "So violent," end quote. He puts all his effort in this time, and it's over. He won. He tries to offer a hand to Jarrett, but is rejected, so he makes his way towards Vi. The writer next to her introduces herself as, quote, "Cornelia Saheli," end quote. But Vi is so turned on right now by Xaden that she can't keep her eyes off of him. Vi,
That's
get your
right.
man. We find out that Xaden only fought to have 24 hours off the patrol roster, so Jarrett can have the other 24. That's so sweet. Such a nice guy. And the sexual tension, though, is so thick that Vi can't breathe. And Xaden asks what is going through her mind.
But he knows. He knows all her nasty thoughts.
I was just going to say, though, is he actually not trying to read her memories and respect her, quote, privacy here? Is he, because before he tickle her scalp or whatever, but now there's no ice prickling nothing, so he's not reading her damn mind, Just know
True.
I'm head bobbing a lot here.
Well, things are still prickling, but in other places. You know what I'm saying? She's feeling things down
Bella's
under.
Bella's our
down
dirty
in the
birdie.
deep. I'm the sex illustrator.
This is why you get all the sex scenes to read too.
I know, it's just what it is. I attract them. Vi inspects the cut on his lip. By the way, they're alone now. Just want to say that. They're alone. Everyone has left the building. And they're still in the chamber. Vi inspects the cut on his lip, and he tilts her head to face him, asking her, quote, "What are you thinking? Because I can read a lot into the way you are looking at me, but I'm going to need the words," end quote. He tells her that he is 3 seconds away from taking her to his bedroom, and she says, quote, "Not your room. You, me, bed, not a good idea at the moment. Too tempting," end quote. To which he replies, quote, "As I remember, which I do, often we don't need a bed." End quote. Lord!
Oh my Lanta. Douse me down. Douse me down. Because, Lord.
Take me to Pound Town.
I'm a little parched. Just know all of us are taking a sip of water right now.
My hands are sweating. That's how it's getting right now. She starts to consider kissing him, but just from her mentioning the word, his lips were on hers as he hungrily devoured her, and she feels his groan reverberate through her body. Guys, he picks her up, putting her against the stone wall of the chamber, and just goes to town on her body. I love how their kissing is described here because it really captures the intensity of this moment. It says, quote, "He lays expert claim to every line and recess of my mouth, like this is the only time he'll get. Like kissing me is more vital than his next breath," end quote. He angles her head to deepen the kiss. Ugh. Like, I cannot. And he groans through the mental bond, saying, quote, "Gods, I've missed the taste of you, the feel of you in my arms," end quote. She can't take it anymore and starts to unbutton her flight jacket like she's ready to go. And he then suggests that they stop. And now she is the one saying she wants to continue. He warns her that he will do a lot more than just kissing. And she tells him that it can just be about sex. You know, we don't have to get it all twisted, you know, emotionally, but he wants to have sex with her only if there's something more. And she rejects him. He understands and says, quote, "I want you more than my next breath, but I can't fuck you into looking at me like you used to. I refuse to use sex as a tool to get you back," end quote. He takes her hand and presses it on her chest and says, quote, "Not when I want to be in here," end quote. Ugh. I'm a puddle. My heart's in a puddle. I'm a puddle. That's all I got to say. He sees her apprehension and he gets frustrated because he admits that he's a fucking fool when it comes to her, that he will kiss her whenever she wants because his, quote, "self-control is shit," end quote, when it comes to her. Because if it was whenever he wants, his mouth would live on her mouth all day, 24/7. He says, quote, "But I'm begging you, Violet, don't offer me your body unless you're offering me everything. I want you more than I want to fuck you. I want those 3 little words back," end quote. She points out that it was him who suggested that they keep it platonic. Ugh, men. But he admits that he wants to do things differently this time and will wait until she trusts him. She bathes in his bathing chamber that he is allowed to have because, sadly, no one wants to share a bathroom with him because of who his father was, which is sad, but also
I'll share a
perk,
bathroom with him.
you know, not sharing a bathroom. Hell yeah, I would too. I would too. After she is settled in, they catch up and they discuss how he is being suspected of smuggling, which is why their group is being searched before flying. As Violet is sharpening her daggers, she remarks something he said to her. Quote, "When we were at the lake before resin, you said that the only thing that can kill the venom is what powers the wards," end quote. He agrees and she continues, quote, "The daggers are made of the material that powers the wards, the alloy that Brennan mentioned," end quote. He hands her the same looking dagger she used at resin and explains that the metal medallion in the hilt is alloy, blended with materials that are capable of holding power. The wards originate from the veil, but these medallions boost the wards' powers, extending them. The more alloy there is, the stronger the wards. He reveals that there is a whole armory in each outpost, and Vi asks why the wards keep falling if that is the case, and he explains that once used, they need to be imbued again, meaning riders have to channel their powers into them to charge them. However, it's a skill that not a lot of riders have. Although anything can be used with the alloy, daggers were preferable because of Melgren, who had a vision of how an upcoming battle was going to go, and having them as daggers were important for his victory. They talk about needing a forge to smelt the alloy in Aricia, something that Xaden is already planning to achieve, and she wonders if the wards came first or the alloy to boost them. Xaden says, "Well, that's classified information." The chapter ends with Xaden training her to strengthen her mental shields. Chapter 13. Violet and Taryn return to Biscaya the next day. Vi asks Taryn if he knows how to raise the wards, and he admits that he does not. He then senses that they are being ordered by Carr and Varish to the practice grounds. Vi feels concerned because she knows Varish wants to punish her for keeping Indarna away from training, and she decides to face him anyway to protect Indarna. She is on the practice grounds training her signet with Carr, and he is pushing her to her limits as part of her punishment, while Varish watches on the sidelines. But Varish also commands her to go again, or else she will go to the brig. Taryn growls behind her, but he is bound to the rules of the Empyrean, while she is bound to the rules of humans. So he cannot basically meddle unless her life is in danger, or I guess there's not much he can do in this case. So Violet's rage powers her signet, sending lightning upon lightning upon lightning to strike a hilltop. But she knows that it's not an aiming practice. They just want her to wear out. She feels herself overheating, getting close to burnout, causing an alarmed Andarna to wake up and check on her. But Vi reassures her that she can handle it. Kar warns Varish that she is being pushed too far. But Varish does not care and commands her to go again unless Andarna is brought out to training. Andarna hears this and tries to fly to Vi. But Violet commands her to stay where she is, or else she will risk riders bonding to Feathertails. Andarna stays put, but she is not happy about it at all. On attempt number 40, Violet shoots out another lightning bolt and collapses on her knees. Taryn roars so loudly towards Kar and Varish that Kar's notebook flies out of his hand and mentally shouts towards their dragons, quote, "Silver One is done," end quote. Kar reminds Varish that killing her will anger the generals, lose them 2 dragons, and Xaden's signet. Varish commands one more to see if she is truly obedient. Motherfucker. Taryn refuses, but Violet does anyway. However, this time, the power she unleashes doesn't let go, causing destruction at a ridgeline close to her. She panics as she tries to bring her arms down, but she feels herself catching on fire. Taryn shouts at her to cut it off mentally, and Andarna is heard crying. With a scream, she shuts it off, ending the strikes, and Kar just ends it definitely. Like, it's done now. She collapses on Taryn, and Varish says, quote, "Fascinating. You'll both be indispensable once you come to heal," end quote.
He's
Fucking
such a piece
asshole.
of shit. I wish Taryn would just torch him.
Yeah, seriously. Like, he needs to fucking go. Hate that guy. Taryn cradles her in his talons as he speeds his way towards help. She is burning up and in so much pain. He dips her in a nearby river to help cool her off, but her pulse is slowing and she is having trouble breathing. But he keeps dipping her until they reach the bank, where Imogen calls out to her along with Bodhi. Imogen confirms that it's a burnout. V is red, according to Enya, and tells them to give her a minute. Bodhi's dragon advises her to eat now that she is cooling down. They find out that this was a punishment from Kar and Varish for keeping Andarna away from training, so they're all pissed. Violet is in her own little world, though, because in that moment, she is thinking about her man and how she wishes she could be with him in that moment. Bodhi is especially pissed because he says, quote, "I'll handle it. This won't happen to you again." End quote. I mean, kind of reminds me of Xaden right there. Right, Carol? That's some Xaden characteristic.
Also, what kind of dragon does
Interesting.
Bodhi have?
Taryn butts in and says, quote, "Tell the humans that I will handle dragon matters," end quote. They slowly make it back to the dorms. They are now watching the first years in spar training, especially Sloane, who seems to have not improved. Violet's skin still looks like she has a sunburn, and Imogen approaches her, asking if her friends still think she lost control during training. And Vi admits that they do because they would be worried about her, but she's also afraid of putting them at risk. Sloane gets punched hard by Jasek, causing his squad leader to command him to pull back. And he is angry because his brother recently died. His brother is Naval Jasek, who was the one that was hauled away by Professor Markham and later listed on the death roll. Vi suspects that he asked for a book that he shouldn't have, and was later found beaten to death in his room. Imogen warns Vi to be careful of Jesinia, and Vi defends her friend, but then realizes that it was Jesinia who reported Naval Jasek. She knows the codex, so she definitely knew that it would cost him his life. Sloane does not give up, but Jasek has her pinned in a position that should signify defeat. Violet is worried, knowing her first challenge is on Monday. Imogen asks how she knows and who is Sloane paired with. Vi admits that she knows because of the book that Brennan gave her, or she has by Brennan. Vi tells her that it's someone she can't beat. Imogen says that Sloane refused her help when she offered. Honestly, Sloane pisses me off because I get it. She wants to be tough and she hates everyone for what happened to her brother and everything. I get that. But common sense, girl. You're in a war college. You're going to need
Well, she's also going to need people to train her because she's not going to survive much longer with the way she's acting.
Violet can't watch Sloane get killed because of Liam, so she starts to think of a plan. Riddock comes towards V and touches her on the shoulder, triggering a PTSD response from nearly being assassinated. She doesn't know it's him until she has him pinned against the wall with a dagger pointed at his face. Ree checks up on V as she does, and Imogen compliments her leadership, making Ree feel very confused about her kindness towards her. And as they walk to physics class and talk about physics, Vi is on high alert. So she kind of looks a little bit paranoid right now, looking around the corners for anyone jumping out at her and stuff. But as she's scanning her surroundings and her friends are talking around her, suddenly a bag is put over her head and she is unconscious. End of chapter 13.
Chapter 14. Violet wakes up to find herself and her squad alongside second-year riders from 2nd Squad Flame Section in a forest. Across from them sit 2 groups of 8 infantry cadets. This is RSC. Violet tells Taryn to make sure he sees Sigale if this takes more than a day, since tomorrow Xaden and Sigale are set to arrive. She also knows how the infantry cadets are all very uniform, while the riders have made adjustments to their uniforms and seriously all look completely different. Professor Grady tells the group to drink, and Violet notes that there's something off about it. Quote, pungent, earthy, and something bitterly floral that I can't quite taste. End quote. She thinks the taste is from the water skins, but in a few minutes, she realizes that they have purposely cut her and the rest of the riders off from their dragons. This particular lesson is about the riders and the infantry cadets learning to work together. A scribe and 2 healers join them. They receive 2 maps, and their objective is to work together to find a marked location and secure it. Once they do, they will be extracted. Professor Grady finally lets them know why they don't have the ability to communicate with their dragons, and it is because, quote, you have all been dosed with a particular mixture of herbs that dulls not only your connection, but your signet as well. As frustrating as it is, we're actually pretty proud of the concoction. So let us know if you feel any side effects, end quote. I'm sorry, but doesn't this remind you guys of when Violet was stabbed with a poison dagger in 4th Wing and she lost the connection to Taryn?
And this is probably the work of Venom. You're onto something because this is suspicious. And why would they have this type of poison at their disposal, using it on students? They're probably seeing if it works or not and then use it in real life.
Word. They're definitely using the same poison. Or is it truly because they know the riders could be stabbed with that poison and the result is the connection being cut off, so they are preparing them for just that? The last thing Professor Grady says before he leaves is that there are 2 other groups out there, and while our group's dragons are hunting them, their dragons are hunting them. Also, what the fuck? Some unbonded cadets also join in on this particular course. Once alone, Violet recognizes Aof, who is the first in her year training for the field. She lets Vi know that, quote, you are the most powerful rider in yours. Dyer and Calvin are the best in their years. Naturally, they built the strongest team first, end quote. Hours later, the 2 groups are not getting along at all. Actually, Ree and Calvin are arguing that they're each wrong in the direction they are heading in. Clearly not working together. In fact, they're all arguing. Brissa finally notices that they have been given 2 different maps, but an orange scorpion tail approaches. Bade, Jack Barlow's dragon. Everyone but the riders are freaking out. And even though the writers are trying to tell them what to do to survive in this moment, Bade gets right into Violet's face. She killed, quote unquote, her rider. And damn, is everyone freaking out because this could go either way, except someone screams and tries to run. Tomas, the squad leader for 2nd Squad Flame Section, runs after Gwen as Bade rears and curls her tongue. Violet recounts history of the orange dragons, letting us know that they abandoned their original hatching grounds in the northern Esbens. They now choose new valleys in the same rage. She is shook. When Violet is freaking out, this is how she centers herself.
Those orange dragons are not trustworthy. And also, did her breath stink? Did Bade's breath stink? I need to know. Like, this is a thing.
I don't know. I cannot. But also, orange dragon. Varish has an orange dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Jack has an orange dragon. Brennan has an orange
All the crazy
dragon.
All the villains.
I think.
I mean, we don't know if Brennan's a villain yet.
He's a villain.
Am I the
Am
problem?
I the villain?
I don't think I'm the problem.
I can't.
He definitely is. Just, you know what? I will say that I think I will bet on that just because we don't know truly
can I tell you guys, like, Brennan has a rune on his hand, right? What if that rune is how he's being controlled? What if Naolan
That's what I
is
said.
pretending to be Brennan?
That's a good point.
What if Naolan
Like
is
using
pretending,
like his body per se?
yeah, like cloning himself?
That's actually a really
Get
good
out.
theory.
Oh my god.
Mad
That's a
woman
good
theory.
point. Oh my God, I got goosebumps.
Because that makes sense, Steph, because like how they put power into the Wyvern, and Naolan could put power into Brennan and pretend to be Brennan somehow.
Yes.
Oh, I got
We
goosebumps. Oh my god.
we
Oh my God.
deciphered
Oh my
the
God.
code. We cracked the
You cracked
code.
the code.
Okay.
You guys cracked the code.
You heard it here on the Enchanted
You heard it here
Circle
first.
Pod.
Right
You
here
heard it
first.
here first.
Wow.
Oh my
we're so smart.
gosh.
Imagine
also
so
it
many
explains
people
too
already
why-
said this
why-
already.
I don't
Guys.
think so, because I like.
No, but guys, listen. No, I haven't heard that. But wait, guys, listen. It explains why too Brennan hasn't communicated with Mira and Violet because there's no emotional
Right, because you know what?
connection.
Remember.
That's
First of all,
right.
Brennan left so much information for Mira. Like he was a good brother.
Exactly.
And Violet always says
He was a good
he acts like
brother.
himself, but not. He's changed.
Mhm.
He's different, but still Brennan.
No.
Ew. Oh my
And
god.
Sigale's reaction to him, like
Yeah.
Sigale knows that he's
Exciting.
no bueno.
Yes. Girls.
Sigale is
girls,
ruthless,
girls,
but she
girls.
don't be acting like that to nobody. So
Okay, Naolan, we're on to you. You are pretending to be Brennan.
Mm-hmm.
we see you.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Rebecca's smart
That's
because
crazy.
she only mentioned his rune one time. And that was the beginning of this book. One time she mentioned this rune on his hand.
One time. Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh my gosh, Rebecca,
my
tell
God.
us
I
you're
know.
right, please.
Okay.
Tell us.
call me.
We need to know.
I'm spiraling right now. I'm spiraling. I think this is my favorite theory right now. We are
Yeah, seriously.
finally, once Bade leaves, they notice Tomas is dead. End of episode 8. Well, guys.
Well. A lot
All right,
happened in these
I'm still
chapters.
spiraling about my theory. Me and Carolina and Bella's Mad Woman Theory. This is a new podcast, Mad Woman Theory. Every
Mad Woman
episode, I rename our.
That's it.
Oh my God.
That's it.
I can't even. We have so many
That was
theories.
good.
We have to add this
How am I
one to the list, the long list of theories we have going on here.
We should. How am I going to sleep?
I don't know.
tonight?
We're gonna sleep like Naolan is Brennan.
Oh my gosh, I can't because I can't now
Yeah.
unsee that because Brennan hasn't talked to Violet or Mira.
No.
Nobody for so long.
And when-
Why? Like if you loved your family, you would want to give
Yep.
some sign.
And when he sees Lilith at the end of this book, like I guys, we got to pay attention to his body language, to everything going on, because who would know something's up with their kid? It would be Mama Lilith would know.
Yeah.
You know?
He just seems, before, like the way Violet describes him, like he would never be the kind of brother who would leave his family behind. And we see that when he leaves his book for Mira to prepare her for the writer's quadrant. We see that when Violet talks about her brother. And yet when she gets to Orisha and sees Brennan, he kind of acts like nothing is wrong, which is weird. Like if you haven't seen your sister in 5 years, wouldn't your first reaction would be to like hold her, hug her, tell her how much you missed her, like not just like stare at each other and act like nothing happened. Like in 5 years he hasn't.
But can I also mention
gone.
he was also surprised that Violet remembered the stories that their dad told them. But the Brennan that knew Violet wouldn't be surprised, because he would know who Violet is and she would remember those things. Like he would know that Violet would remember everything, and that how much their father actually read to them. So that was also weird.
Yeah.
And
because Mira, like when Violet tries to tell Mira about the wyvern, Mira quickly knows what she's talking about, because their dad have read these books forever. Oh my God. That's not Brennan.
Yeah.
That's Naolan.
And you know what I'm thinking? Like Brennan, who we think is Naolan now, literally says like it cost him everything. And was Brennan Naolan's everything? You know what I mean? Like it cost him Brennan. Like he basically took over Brennan. You know?
Oh, right.
Like it cost him everything.
Because Naolan was a siphon, right?
Yep. That was his signet power.
So he siphoned all the power from Brennan and killed him and took over his body and became the big bad venom. And he's been channeling
in
power
disguise.
to Brennan.
I don't even know. Like it's kind of believable for the characters to believe it's actually Brennan, is because him and Naolan probably had a relationship together, and he knows all the little details. He knows his family. He knows who Violet is and Mira is. Like he knows these things, but obviously not as in depth as Brennan, but he does know about them because of Brennan, because they were together. Well, assuming they were together.
Wow.
Anyway.
Bella, you're right. How am I going to sleep tonight?
And on that note, OMG. Thank you so much to everyone who has been supporting us. We hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. We love you, and we are so thankful for the support. Stay tuned for our next episode. We will be posting a new episode every Tuesday.
Again, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you are surrounded with those you love and that you know how grateful we are for you. We are just your local best friends enjoying each other's company and talking about what they love the most, books. This podcast is the best, the funnest to make when you have the best girls doing it with you. Remember to follow us on @Enchanted Circle Pod on Insta and TikTok, and follow/subscribe to our podcast channel on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or YouTube.
That is a wrap for this episode. Thank you for tuning in and for your continuous support. Let us know what you think about today's episode on our social media platforms. We would love to hear your thoughts and your theories. Hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving full of memorable moments. We will catch you next time on the Enchanted Circle Pod.